Disney's out there bragging that Mufasa, the Lion King, is the #1 movie in America and the #1 movie in the world. Now, of course, this is a bit of a problem because some of the data currently seems to disagree, like the weekend estimates showing that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is actually still roughly $1 million ahead. Now, we don't get the actual data until later in the day on a Monday or maybe early Tuesday, but this is curious, and so curious, in fact, that, well, as you can see here, Disney managed to get community noted once again when it comes to this. Let's talk about it. Renegade Online.
I guess we might as well get into it because that's kind of the reason why I think Mufasa is doing so well is because you got spillover from Sonic. It's the safe bet for grandma and every one of the kids because the kids are going to be arguing. The girls are going to want to go see Moana. The boys are going to want to go see Sonic. Grandma doesn't even know what Sonic is. They turn around and they said, look, we're just going to go to see the Lion King. And I think that's why that did well this weekend. And yeah, you're right. Because of their deals they have with these theaters, they can't open up more screens for Sonic, so those are selling out. Mm-hmm. And same deal for Nosferatu, because Nosferatu's almost done 1,000 less screens than the other two films. And if it wasn't for that fact, I think Nosferatu would be the #1 of the weekend. I think we'd be seeing a repeat of Bram Stoker's Dracula from back in '92.
I 100% agree with you. Everything you just said, absolutely. I mean, and I think it's more than, well, actually Nosferatu opened up in more screens than I thought it would. But here, let me bring it up real quick. There's still something about the performance with Mufasa that's just bugging me. It's a little bit too convenient. Not to mention it's fairly unprecedented for this.
I can't find, unless there's some like inner city thing that's doing like the bus-in things again, which I haven't been able to find anything on, like. Yeah. I think it's just a factor of the few things that I just said and maybe a few other minor things. They're just lucking out here. I mean, if anything, they're their own worst enemy right now with having Moana 2 out or putting this out at the same time as Moana 2. But Moana 2 is already losing steam coming into this weekend. So,
well, it was losing a lot more steam a week or two ago, and it seems like, again, it picked up. And granted, I know it's a Christmas holiday week, which does change the dynamic, but it seemed to be fairly localized. So let's take a look at this real quick. So Sonic 3 coming in at 38 million, at least according to estimates right now. Mufasa the Lion King estimating coming in at 37 million. So according to all the data that we have right now, Sonic 3 is taking the weekend. But let me show you right now what's going on X, if y'all haven't seen this, because Disney is once again getting community noted. Here it is. So Disney has this out. They put this out today. Mufasa, The Lion King, is the #1 movie in America. Last week they had the world because, remember, Disney got community noted last week because people had to stipulate, and there's the new community note, people had to stipulate that, wait a minute, Disney, Sonic is the #1 movie in America, and Sonic doesn't have any international box office opened yet, and they won't for another week. Disney got community noted on that one righteously. And now Disney today is saying Lion King is the #1 movie in America. Now, obviously, Disney may be privy to information that the rest of us plebes are not, but at least insofar as right now, all we know is what we have, like I showed people here, from the numbers, and that is this, that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is the lead dog right now. So I don't know where Disney is getting this claim from. Sonic has still totally outgrossed Mufasa by 23 million to this point in America. They also, so far as the estimates go right now, they've outgrossed Mufasa about $1 million this weekend. What's striking to me is that when you look at all of the movies here, the top 4, or the top 5 rather, you look at Nosferatu, take that out for a second because that's new. Wicked jumped 37% over the previous weekend that was coming into Christmas. And that's been out. This is now the 6th weekend. So that's an incredible jump. Moana 2 jumped 38% from the previous weekend. Mufasa only jumped 5% from the previous weekend, but that's the second weekend for Mufasa. That's unusual for a jump like that, especially considering the #1 movie, Sonic 3, lost 37. Now, a 37% drop from weekend 1 to weekend 2 is admirable. That's an excellent hold. That tells me that people went out, they saw the movie, they liked it, they told their friends about it, and more people showed up. Mufasa, I didn't see a whole lot of, people raving about it. Now, it may have in circles, or like you said, Tom, it was just the easy pick over the post-Christmas weekend. Sonic going down 37% when you got those two Disney films had a huge jump. Maybe part of that's true. Part of me wonders, look, I think Disney knew Mufasa was going to be a mess, I think, going into it. All the tracking had Mufasa being an absolute disaster. So I think what would have happened is one of two things or a combination of it. I think Disney wound up allocating a ton more money into marketing this week to try to save Mufasa, which means the costs and the hurdle they have to get over to make this movie profitable probably went up considerably in the last 7 days. I think that's number one. Number two, I don't know how empty or full the theaters were for Mufasa again versus Sonic, but I can tell you straight up, last weekend when I went to go see Sonic 3, the Sonic 3 theater was pretty packed, was pretty full. The Lion King theater comparably was almost empty. So I'm really wondering, how did that radically change so much in a few days, if that did happen? But I think Disney's very desperate to finish the year with what is perceived as a win, because we know how they do things. They will deceive, they will fluff, they will lie in some cases. Not to say that they're fudging these numbers, but it wouldn't all surprise me, like our buddy Andre has said in the past, that there was a little box office fortification there from the marketing budget. Not 37 million worth, don't get me wrong, but that's a heck of a feat for a movie that was going into its second weekend like this. Wicked has the musical aspect. We always know that those musicals tend to hang on strong, and everybody raved about Wicked. And again, this was going from weekend 5 to weekend 6. Mufasa just kind of splatted, and there was really not a whole lot of oomph behind it. But I don't know, just something about that in particular is bugging me, especially considering it's Disney, and we know how they kind of are sometimes. But
like I said, I think it's a combination of a few things. I know Disney pulls their bull. I talked to somebody before where they were complaining about how they got to keep movies in there for so long, and even if another movie's doing well, they can't move it into a smaller theater because they're locked into it. No, again, I think all these factors are added into it. I don't know if there's so much shenanigans on Disney's behalf other than trying to misconstrue and mislead the news a little bit on the #1 film in America and all that kind of stuff. But other than that, I think they're just lucky in circumstance right now with the way things are working out theatrically. And it's, if anything, it's an embarrassment of riches right now at the box office. We haven't had a Christmas like this since pre-COVID, where we've had this many options. Yeah. You've got 3 family films out there right now, 2 of which are Disney. Frankly, I don't want to throw too much conspiracy into it or anything like that, but
I'm not trying to suggest that. I'm just saying,
no.
We've
But
seen in the past where, and Disney's not the only one that's done it, but you'll have you'll have these marketing. Disney pays a lot of money, more so than probably any other studio, for some very expensive third-party marketing. We know what they do. They make bots on X. They artificially inflate engagements in social media. Some of the things that they have been rumored, or in some cases known to have done in the past, is use part of that marketing budget to, say, buy an extra few million worth of movie tickets to jazz the box office so they have a story. Not that that's not illegal by any means, but it's a very efficient and effective version of marketing because, if, hey, we're going to go out and spend $1 million on tickets, well, roughly $500,000 of that is going to come back to the studio. So it's a very efficient use of marketing. I just found it curious as the jump, all of a sudden, nobody knew about Lion King, and then or Mufasa, and then it kind of boomed. Look here at, for example,
Nosferatu kind of had the same thing though too. That was the thing, is there's a lot of people who and again, you're right. It's a little bit different because you have a sequel compared to the other, but and the amount of money that Disney put behind Mufasa is probably isn't even comparable to what they put behind Nosferatu. But I'm a little surprised that they're
$30 to $40 million movie, if that.
I mean, if anything, I guess to kind of wrap up what I was saying before and respond to the whole thing is, I think at the end of the day, they're trying to save face here with this. It's doing a little bit better than they probably even anticipated, considering I'm sure they knew what we knew going into this, that this thing was probably not going to be that appealing to anybody. I think they're just running with it because they've realized they've got a little bit of an in here with this, because they've got I can't blame them for what they're doing, but I'm not surprised. I don't know how much they're putting into it, though. That's the question.
That's just it. I mean, again, this doesn't typically happen organically. Unless you've got some evidence of like really strong word of mouth, everybody started talking about it. There doesn't seem to be any of that I've seen. So Disney, I think they pumped. I've seen a lot of advertisements and whatnot in the past week for Mufasa. So, it tells me that Disney has allocated a ton of money back into that, and maybe even Moana 2, which, again, it raises the floor for that they have to cross. And typically we'll see that with very successful films. Films overperform. They come out. It does a lot better than what they thought it would. They'll allocate more marketing dollars into it. Versus the opposite, what you had here was Mufasa got its absolute face kicked inside out opening weekend by Sonic. Not just by a little bit, but almost quite literally by 2-1. It was embarrassing as hell for Disney. And then all of a sudden the magic happened, and you can see here the estimated production budget for Sonic 3, about $120 million. For Mufasa is listed at $200, which if history is any guide, Disney probably went over that a good bit. 20, 30, maybe 50 million. Who knows? Maybe more. But a lot of this was filmed, I think, stateside. So the chances that we're actually going to see a financial report or any kind of solid data on it is slim. But we know well enough from Disney's history with their UK filings what that looks like. 4,100 screens for Mufasa, 3,700 screens for Sonic. So Mufasa had the clear advantage. When you look at the international box office, again, take that with a bit of a grain of salt. Sonic the Hedgehog has been out about 5 days internationally, 3 days in some cases, whereas Mufasa has been out now a full 10 days, if not 2 weeks, almost entirely, or maybe I think it's just right at 10 days. So a big difference there. But you look here, and this is the comparison. Look at the first Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Sonic absolutely just demolished it. And then you go to the first Monday, Sonic still wins. The first Tuesday, things tighten up. And then all of a sudden on Christmas Day, and this is where, to your point, Tom, all of a sudden, kablam. It blew up to 14 million. It was the first day that it actually managed to beat Sonic, and then it beat it again on Thursday. But then Friday, the weekend rolled around, and as of right now, with the estimates, it's looking like Sonic is taking the weekend from Mufasa again. Now, the question is, how long does this persist, right? We have one more holiday week right now that we're coming into. When I say the school holiday, right? Schools don't get back in session for kids until, that week after next, basically. Next Wednesday is New Year's Day. So you got Thursday, January 2nd, Wednesday, January 3rd, 4th and 5th is a Saturday. So most kids are going to be going back to school on the 6th of January, it looks like, which is Monday. So a week from tomorrow, in other words. We'll have to see how this plays out. We really will. Certainly Mufasa seems to be doing well enough internationally. It still has a long way to go. But these are the kind of films spending $200 million on these things, and there's no money for them to be made after they leave theaters because Disney consumes all of its own product. Whereas Paramount here, I know they've been loosening up and they've been doing more third-party licensing, and especially now with the thing with Skydance coming into play, we're probably going to see more and more of it. So there's going to be more lucrative back end for Sonic, which is why they keep making them. I scratched my head on this, and I'm like, okay, all right, that's interesting. Mufasa came out with a whimper, was getting curb stomped, and then poof, it's all of a sudden it's having a huge second weekend, and I can't figure out why.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.